All right, Ed, hey, are you here with me? I'm going to make you co-host.
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Hello, it's
Hello,
great to
hello.
see you. I am in a mastermind with Ed here, and we are in different groups, right? But one of my friends in his group was like, you got to meet this guy. He's fantastic. You're going to have so much to talk about. It's going to be awesome. And I thought, okay, cool. Well, when we got on the phone, like we were on the phone for what, 30 or 45 minutes, just talking about real estate and talking about property management. And I got so excited and I thought, well, let's not wait until 21. Let's bring Ed in right now so that we can learn about the BRRRR method. We can talk about how to get started. We can talk about looking at new deals. We can talk about fix and flips. We can talk about property management. I mean, there's so many things that he could talk about, and we had a hard time kind of narrowing it down to one. But I think we've picked the best one. But y'all, please, if you have any questions while Ed is talking, put them in the chat. And if he starts to talk about any ideas that you think would be interesting to learn more about, then let me know and we'll have him come back. Well, hopefully we will have him come back in 21 to teach us even more. This man is absolutely fantastic. I was blown away while we were on the phone together and I had a great time. He's got a great sense of humor too. He sent me a message a couple hours ago and he was like, hey, so, and I was like, don't even tell me you're not coming tonight. And he's here, so it's going to be awesome, and I'm super excited to hear from Ed O'Daniel, and take it away, sir. Did I miss anything? Oh, he is zooming in from St. Louis, if y'all missed that, so he has a lot to teach us, and he's going to, spill his guts, because it's not one of those, the mastermind that we're in together isn't one of those, scarcity mentalities. So he's going to tell you everything and anything you need to know, and you don't have to worry about him being your competition, because you are your competition. All right, so learn everything you can from everybody that you can, and we're going to learn a ton tonight from Ed. Thank you so much for being here. This is going to be awesome. Are you ready?
Yes, I am here. Let me just try to get all set up here. Just trying to get my screen shared and get this all squared away here. All righty.
Perfect. I'm here if you need anything, and I'll try not to interrupt.
Awesome.
But I talk a lot too. So.
Couple ground rules. First of all, can everybody hear me? Can everybody see my screen?
Y'all talk to us in the chat. Make sure it's all panelists and attendees. Can you see his
raise
screen
your hand,
and hear him?
throw something up like that.
Haley says, yepers. Pam says, yes. Corey says he can hear, yes, and see the screen, yes. So I think we're good to rock and roll it.
Awesome. I'm just trying to get some other things set up here. I'm a big Q&A guy. Right now, just a question. Is everybody going through chat, or do people have the ability to mute or unmute themselves to ask a question?
We'll be doing the chat for right now. Later, when Santa Claus comes in, it's more interactive, but we'll go to a different Zoom room for that.
Awesome. Okay. Well, one of the things, like I said, I'm a big question and answer guy, so I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat. So I've got just a couple of screens here I'm trying to keep an eye on. I love technology. This stuff is great. Awesome. Well, hey guys, my name is Edward O'Daniel here. We're going to be just talking about why people should invest in rental property. A lot of people understand this. A lot of people have an idea that, people tell me that rental properties are a great investment, but nobody really ever tells you why. Nobody ever tells why this investment's better than another investment. So I'm here to answer a few questions, and I'm going to get a little bit more excited as we get toward the end of this presentation, because talking about what we're going to talk about today really kind of gets me pumped up, and this is the reason why it excites me so much. It's almost like creating money. It's almost like you get to print your own money, and it's awesome here. I'm not going to spoil it. I'll wait till we get there, but let's move forward here. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time just about me. I'm the goofy guy in the pink cover. This is a little trip that me and my wife went on here about a month ago to Niagara Falls. If anybody sees, that's the Horseshoe Falls behind us there. But we got to take the trip, all because our rental properties are paying us and allowed me to take trips like that. So this is what I want for other people. I want other people to be able to experience this as well. So overall here, a lot of things going on. I've been a property manager for over 15 years. I've been managing my own properties, professionally managing with our brokerage here in St. Louis for over the last 6. I'm a broker, I'm an investor, I'm a coach. I've coached for some national organizations. I love that. I just don't work for them anymore because I love working just with independent organizations like the Knoxville RIA. and just trying to educate people and so forth. That's what I love doing. I love seeing that light bulb moment kind of go off. I really do. And being able to change somebody's life really just motivates me and drives me to just give them that one piece of information that if you could go back in time and give yourself when you were younger, that kind of thing. If you ever ran across that exercise, it's just like, what would you tell yourself? What information would you give yourself when you were younger that would dramatically change the sort of vector of your life, if that makes sense? But I own St. Louis Property Management, so we do manage my portfolio and other people's portfolio in there. And we also have STL Invest. It's just our fix and flip company here in the area for wholesalings, turnkey rentals, and the rehabs that we do. I am a father of 2 teenagers. That's why I put that little help for those people out there that that have teenagers. That just please help me not pull my hair out, help me not kill them. But no, it's not that bad. But they can be challenging. And me and my wife there in the picture, we've been married for 24 years. This actually Christmas Eve here in a few weeks will be our 25th wedding anniversary. Got married on Christmas Eve, so that's very interesting type fact. But so moving on, agenda. Here's what we're going to be talking about here. I want to go over some of the 4 main benefits of rental property, and the goal of this is just to again teach you about why rental properties are such a good investment and if it's really going to be a good fit for you. So the 4 main benefits of rental property, why people invest, the different types of investors that I've seen, and I'll go over that when we get there. We're going to cover just why rental properties are better than other investments. And then we're going to start getting into some numbers. We're going to start getting into some other more specific topics. We are going to go over a little bit of math. Don't freak out. I'm going to be doing all the math for you. So all I want you to do is just follow along. So I'm not going to have you do anything, no pen and paper necessary on this one, but we're going to be going over what ROI means, return on investment. What does a return on investment mean? What is an infinite return? And then I've got a special topic that I'm going to cover at the very, very end of this. It's going to make everybody excited here. So we got a lot to cover. I've actually included a little bit more in this slide deck for this group. So I want to make sure we stick to the timetable here. So beginning note, this presentation is really built for the person starting at the very beginning. So it's not built for the person that's been in rental property for a long time. I'm starting from the very beginning. So if you already know some of this, please just kind of bear with me as I get through this. But I'm trying to start from the very beginning so we can bring everybody, new people who have never invested that might be interested along with us on this journey. So that's it. I will be introducing several real estate lingo terms in here. I'll explain them. If I don't or we're confused, please throw them in the chat. I will be monitoring them, and hopefully Whitney can keep me honest with, if I don't see it, I want to make sure I answer your questions, because it does no good to keep going throughout the presentation if I lost you in slide 5. That's going to be kind of bad for you. So again, there'll be a little bit of math. Please don't freak out about it. And please always remember to ask questions, okay? Hopefully I'll answer all the questions that you have, but I want to make sure we're here. Again, there's no filter on this, so we're able to answer any questions that you guys are looking for. So 4 main benefits of rental property. What are they? These are it right here. We've got cash flow, depreciation, mortgage or loan paydown. We're going to go over all of these, by the way, and then appreciation. So these are the 4 main reasons that people invest in rental properties. So we're going to go over each one of these in particular, break them down. So I want to make sure we're not going to breeze over this real quick. So cash flow. Cash flow is by far the biggest reason why people invest in rental property. They want to make money at the end of every month. They want to make money on this one. So cash flow is just the money generated by your rental property after paying for all your expenses. So you get rent money, you pay all your expenses, which could be a mortgage, could be some other utilities, and whatever's left over is your cash flow every month. Now, if you plan accordingly, and we're not going to get over exactly like how to analyze rental properties and things like that on this training. That's kind of another training that we give, but we're not going to talk about analyzing it. But just if you do it right from the very beginning, you should be able to cash flow on any property that you buy, as long as you do all your numbers correctly here. So I did want to introduce something here that I'm going to be using throughout this presentation. It's called the 1% rule. So right now, this is just a general rule of thumb. There's no specific guidelines for this, but it basically just says that if you're in rental property, the property that you're buying, and this is the purchase price, the fix-up price, everything. This is like the total all-in cost of that property. The property should rent for at least 1% of that total cost. So in this example, we're going to be using $100,000 just to kind of keep the numbers easy and simple. $100,000, and we're going to be using $1,000 a month for rent. So that's sort of the basis that we're going to be using for the examples throughout this presentation, just so we can keep the same flow in understanding the analysis of this property. So an example of cash flow. House has $100,000, rents for $1,000 a month. You have a loan on the property for the payment of $700. And I try to be conservative. I think that's conservative depending upon your particular area, but that includes principal, interest, property taxes, and insurance. So that's everything. That's everything together, your main expenses regarding the property that you would need to pay if you're escrowing those and so forth. So right now, the cash flow on this property would be $1,000 minus your expenses of $700. So you'd be making $300 a month on this particular property. So that's what cash flow is. Cash flow is the money left over after you pay for all of your expenses on the particular property. And this is the primary reason why people get into into rental properties, but it's not the only reason. And there are other reasons. Some of you may be looking like, well, why else would somebody want to get into it? I mean, if you're not generating money, why would I even want to bother with this? Aha, it depends upon where you're at in life and what your situation is. Certain other benefits may come in handy. So let's look at those. Depreciation. Now, this is one that some people can take and some people don't take. But depreciation is basically a federal tax benefit that you receive for owning rental property. Now, technically, I did write it down. Technically, it's a reduction in the value of an asset with the passage of time, due in particular to wear and tear. That's just sort of the technical term. But one of the things I want to make sure that you understand is that you can depreciate the building of a property, but you can never depreciate the land that it's on. That's one of the things that if you ever get your tax bills, or those people that have ever had properties, or you even own your own property, you always kind of get a tax bill that breaks down the building and the land sort of separately as different numbers. Well, that's kind of for the depreciation purposes. So if you ever have, this is how much the land would cost, this is how much the building would cost. Likewise, if you ever have insurance, which again, we're not going to cover insurance on this one, but if you're ever doing like property replacement insurance, they're going to cover replacing the building on the land, obviously not replacing the land, if that makes sense. So depreciation, again, is a tax benefit that you can use to write off, and you can actually take depreciation on rental property for 27 and a half years. That's a long time that you can take depreciation. Now, there might be some other people that are aware of this. There are some pros and cons to taking depreciation. You don't have to take depreciation, but you can take depreciation. Now, I do want to let you know that if you ever buy a property and then take depreciation every year, there is sort of a recapture of that depreciation that has to be paid if you sell that property later. If you sell the property 5 or 10 years down the road and you've depreciated that property, you will then have to sort of recapture it. The CPA, your CPA who does your taxes will work it out, but you'll have to kind of since pay back some of that depreciation. That's a downside unless you can do something like a 1031 exchange. Now, again, that's another topic that we're not going to get into, but a 1031 exchange is basically a way that you can trade one property for another type property and sort of roll all your taxes into the next property. And if you keep doing that and doing that, sometimes people actually use that as an estate planning tool to help avoid taxes. So anyway, that is depreciation. Next is going to be mortgage paydown. So obviously, if you have a property, that property, hopefully, you're going to be able to use a bank loan or something like that for you to be able to buy more property. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But on the mortgage, you're going to have an interest and a principal side of that mortgage payment. And each month, that principal payment, which is the amount that goes toward the loan. So the interest side goes toward the bank. I tell you what here, I think I'm skipping ahead of myself for a little bit. Let me cover this, and then I've got another slide that covers that a little bit more detail. So mortgage paydown, whenever you make a mortgage payment each month, you basically consist of two parts, principal and interest. Now, the good thing about rental property is that the tenants are making that payment for you. So as the longer you have tenants in there, the more of that mortgage payment they're actually paying down. Now, let me kind of give you an example. Sometimes this is hard to visualize. I'm sort of partially a visual learner, but also I'm not, so I'm kind of unique. But I'm giving an example here. This is called an amortization schedule. This is a breakdown of month by month of the interest and the principal and the balance of a particular loan. So this loan is for $100,000 for a 30-year amortization, meaning for 30 years you're going to pay on this every month, and a 5.25% interest rate. all the stuff I'm doing here, I'm trying to do very realistic. The one thing I just tell you personally that bothers me is when people get presentations and you look at that and you're like, man, that's unrealistic. There's no way you're going to get a rental property for that low a percent interest rate on it. So I'm really trying to keep everything very realistic. You can get 5.25% on rental property, maybe 5.5 right now, but I'm just trying to be more of a realist. So hopefully the numbers you see here will be pretty accurate to your area. But back to the interest and the principal side, notice on the interest, which is that yellow column, and the principal, which is the green, we have one amount we're looking at just October 2020, 438 for interest, 115 for principal. So you're going to make a payment of whatever that is. It's like $553 or something like that for total. But $553 is going to be your principal and interest payment on this. When you make that payment, the bank gets $438 of that. The principal, meaning how much that $100,000 loan you borrowed gets paid down, is $115. So I wanted to explain that to people who have never seen this before. Now, let me show you the power of this. Look at the month after the 2020. I'm not sure if my mouse is going to work here, but hopefully you guys can see it. Make a mouse big. But here in 2020, this January 2021, all the way down, look at this. You've got all this principal each month, 116, 117, 118. If you go all the way to the bottom, notice that the total amount that the principal that you've paid down for that whole year is $1,429. Well, guess what? Being a rental property owner, the tenant who makes the payments for you, they pay the rent and then you pay the mortgage based upon their payment of the rent, just gave you $1,429 of mortgage pay down this year. And every year you keep them, this is another benefit. This is not even talking about cash flow. We're not talking about any of the other things that we've talked about here. This is strictly mortgage pay down. This is only one of 4 benefits that you get from rental property. So this is just an example of the money that you get just for having a tenant in your property and paying the rent. So hopefully you got that. That's a great benefit. Now, the last one we have is appreciation. Now, appreciation is just simply this: the increase in the rental and real estate value over time. You have a property, you keep it for a year, you keep it 5 years, you keep it 10 years. Hopefully you're going to be in an area that has an appreciating property value. So if you bought it for $100,000, it might be worth, I don't know, say 150, 10 years from now, but the property is going to appreciate. And that $50,000, for instance, in this case, is going to be your appreciation, which is really only, again, one of 4 other benefits that you have for owning rental property. Now, a lot of people, investors I know, they don't count on appreciation, but it's like icing on the cake, if you got it. That's really nice. So you really want to look at if you buy houses in good school districts and things like that, houses that are in great areas, this is where you're going to get the appreciation from. Now, some of the people, if you've been in real estate, have really huge market swings on appreciation. I know there's some people that have been from California and Las Vegas back at times where their properties have literally increased $100,000 just in 1 year of appreciation. That's crazy. I mean, you can get that much money just in your house value going up because you're in such a hot market. So that's just kind of crazy. But overall, those are the 4 main reasons why people invest in rental property. So I wanted to just take a quick minute before I move to the next section and see if anybody had any questions over those 4 main areas. And I'll just give it just a minute.
I think you did a great job of explaining that. Thank you so much.
Awesome. No, it's great. So
Lynn said that she can relate to the teenagers.
So awesome, guys. Okay, so we're just getting started here. I know some of this stuff can be a little bit boring, but believe me, those 4 benefits, that is the reason. That's the guts of why you want to invest in real estate. Now, how to use those to really maximize your return and how much money you make on this. But I want to go over the different type of investors. Now, this is something I kind of put onto my slides. I made these up, literally. These are just from my own experience. I made these up. I didn't read these in a book. There's nobody that talks about these kinds of things that I know about. So right now, here's the different type of investors that I've seen. We have a cash flow investor, which are most people that buy rental properties. We have what I've classified as a high net worth investor, doctors, lawyers, people that make a lot of money. And maybe that could be like a double income family and both working professionals make a lot of money. Well, what's more valuable to them? That's one of the things you have to consider. We'll go over that. An appreciation investor, and then any other type of hybrid that you can make out of there. Now, the thing I want you to understand is that we talked about 4 benefits, but not everybody sees those 4 benefits equally. Not everybody sees cash flow as a number 1 reason to be in real estate. Not everybody people can see things differently depending on who you are and your stage in life. This is why I wanted to create some investor types so you guys can think about how to use those 4 main benefits differently. So cash flow investor, basically when you're evaluating a rental property, just what we talked about earlier, it has to cash flow. You're going to look at the numbers from how much it costs, how much it's going to take to fix up, how much is the rent is going to go in that area. And you're going to sit back and do your straight number calculations and be able to generate how much cash flow it makes. If those numbers look good, you'll buy it. If they don't, you won't. I mean, obviously, if you're in an area, if cash flow is important to you, you may not want to go in an area where you actually have to pay $100 or $200 extra a month for a rental property. Would that make sense? I mean, would you guys ever think it would make sense to have a rental property where you have to pay $200 a month to pay the rental property off? You might be thinking to yourself, you're crazy. I don't have another $200 I could just spit out on this rental property. But I'll explain later, that could benefit you depending on your situation. So the majority of the type of investors I've seen in this now are cash flow investors. But if you look at the right, this is sort of like a little priority box, if you will. So all those 4 benefits, I've kind of given it a certain priority level. Priority 1 would be cash flow. But for this investor, maybe the second one would be mortgage pay down, the third depreciation, and then the fourth appreciation. So appreciation is the lowest, meaning if it doesn't happen, I'm still okay. As long as I can get the mortgage paid down, I'm getting that paid down, and I can take the depreciation, I'm good. The appreciation, if I get it to, like I said, that's just icing on the cake. So that's a cash flow investor. That's the typical people that we deal with in our property management company, as well as myself. I'm a cash flow investor. So let's look at somebody else. Let's look at a high net worth investor. Again, these are people that have a lot of money. So when you have a lot of money, guess what you pay a lot of? Taxes. So you pay a lot of money on taxes when you make a lot of money. Well, some people are actually invest to get a write-off. They want some of these other benefits, but their primary concern is to offset the amount of money they're getting so they don't pay as much money in taxes. So for instance, on the right side here, a high net worth investor, maybe depreciation on the property, that federal tax benefit of being able to write a property off is their number 1 priority. They don't care if it cash flows. They make enough money. They're worried about, if it cash flows, great. But I mean, right now the depreciation might be the major thing, then the mortgage pay down. So this 1 through 4 example can be varying depending upon your particular situation. I'm just trying to give you different examples of how people see these benefits and use them differently. So with a high net worth investor, this type of investor, again, makes a lot of money. They just want a tax break. So this type of investor will actually accept a negative cash flow in exchange for other benefits. So again, they have the money. It all comes out to what is it worth in the end? By the time you look at all the mortgage pay down and you look at the depreciation and other things, that taking a negative cash flow might make sense here. They might be coming out ahead rather than not having that rental property. Because even if you're paying money into a rental property or real estate, where would you rather give your money? Would you rather put your money into the rental property, which you own, which may be appreciating and making some money? Or would you not like to have that and send all your money to the government and paying taxes? Which one would you rather do? So when you sit down with your financial planner, sometimes your financial planner can say, it would make sense to own rental property, even if it doesn't make money. I know it sounds crazy, but take my word for it. It happens. Now, this right here is something I threw in here. This is, I was just wanting to talk about different approaches here. This is a building that a buddy of mine bought and renovated here in the St. Louis area. It's a 70-unit building. What I wanted to show you is the ground floor. There's about 6 offices, 6 commercial spaces on that ground floor. And as an example, we were talking just the other day, and that build out, he's going to take all those commercial spaces and convert them into apartments. Because right now, what's going on with the commercial space with COVID and businesses not being able to stay in place, he's like, it's going to be more profitable for me to turn that commercial space into apartments, because people, it's a good area for what he wants, but people, it's not a great commercial area, but it's a very good residential area. So this particular build out, I think is about $900,000 for building out about 8 I think it's about 8 apartments in this, maybe 9. But one of the investors that he's bringing in is going to be bringing in about $250,000 on this deal. And this person wants zero money every month. This is an example of a high net worth investor. This person has a lot of money. They have a lot of other property. What they're looking for is that this particular deal, this investor is going to put up money, and all they want out of it is the depreciation from the building to help out with other expenses that they've had. And he also gets a partial ownership of the building as well. But this is just an example of, in this case, somebody's giving $250,000 just to offset the amount of money that they're making. Now, I can hear you, because I thought the same thing when I first heard it. Must be nice to have $250,000 to throw around and get depreciation. But I just want to use this as an example, just that some high net worth people, they don't see cash flow as the most positive number one thing. Depending on where you're at in your life, what your situation is, you might need one or the other benefit to be the top priority. So that's why I put this in here, just to kind of go over that. Now, the appreciation investor, this is people that I've only heard about. And I'm just going to be completely upfront. I've heard about these people. These are about the people that I've heard about in Las Vegas specifically, that used to buy property when Vegas was really hot. And I mean, 10 years ago or more, but it's like they were buying properties, they were building subdivisions, and these subdivisions were so large that they were buying the property when the subdivision first got started, and they might spend, I'm just going to throw out a number, just say 100,000 for the benefit of this class. But by time a year goes by and the developer has built out all the other houses and the house values start going up, that $100,000 house may be worth 180 or even 200 in a year, because of how fast the properties are appreciating, because you bought it right when it got started here. You bought it early. Now, this is a case where I wanted to explain to you, why would somebody pay $100 or $200 more each month negatively to keep that property rented? So you have a renter in there. They're going to stay in there for 1 year. Okay. So in that 1 year, you're banking on your property appreciating $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 in this particular market. And when that renter rents for a year, you're going to kick them out. You're going to get the property ready, and you're going to turn around and sell it. You just want them as a placeholder in there to hold the property until the property appreciates. But in the meantime, you have a negative cash flow. So let's just say $200 a month. So that's $2,400 for the year. Okay, that's a negative, but you're also getting mortgage paydown. You're also getting depreciation, and you're also getting the appreciation. So when that person sells it in a year for $200,000, do you really think they're going to care too much about the $2,400 that they spent negatively every month for the renter? Probably not. They're probably going to be smiling all the way to the title company to get that big fat check when they sell the property for this particular case. So again, I'm just here to open your eyes and help you understand about why people invest in rental properties. That is, some people that I know, they buy on appreciation. They buy in a market, they hold it for a year or 2 years, they turn around and sell it to get the appreciation. And all they want to do is just keep the renter in there. They don't want any troubles. They just want to keep the renter in there paying, and then they sell it in a few years and they get out. So awesome. Just trying to look at this. Some of these wowzers. I haven't heard that one in a while. Hey guys, awesome. All right, I appreciate the comments here. So hopefully we're learning a little bit, and we're also seeing how rental property investors actually invest and some of the different methods you can use. So why rentals are better than other investments? Let's hop into it. One word: leverage. That is the key word. Why rentals are better than other investments is leverage. What does that mean? Leverage is just your ability to borrow larger sums of money against a property with a lower amount of down payment. So in the real estate, typically, if you have a bank, most banks will do a conventional 80-20 loan where you put down 20%. And some banks might be a little bit more, but let's just use an 80-20 split. But with a 20% down payment, they will finance the rest of the property for you. So depending on what you have, in this case, I was just using simply a $20,000 investment. If you have $20,000 to invest in a rental property, a bank will let you borrow $100,000 to purchase that property. So That's a good amount. That's a 5x multiplier of your money. So what I've listed here, and guys, if there's day traders, if there's stockbrokers, if there's other financial people, I mean no offense to you. I don't want to hurt your feelings or get into an argument or anything like that over the call, but I mean, this is what I understand. If you have $20,000 and you want to buy stocks, you can buy $20,000 worth of stock. That's what you can get. There's no leveraging. There's no bank I know of that will allow you to, buy $100,000 worth of stock for $20,000 down and finance the rest. So that's just not what I've seen. So stocks are just, I'm using that, and I'm not trying to beat it up, guys. Not trying to beat it up. I'm just simply saying, as another investment type, stocks you can only buy with the money that you have. Okay, real estate with that same 20,000, you can turn that into a $100,000 investment. Okay, now that $100,000 investment can now appreciate and generate a lot more money for you. Okay, so as we start going over this kind of leads into when you talk about why they're better than other investments, we really need to start talking about returns. Sort of what are the returns on, for instance, stocks, or what are the returns on real estate that would make real estate better. Okay, we've already talked about 4 different main things. First of all, we've talked about cash flow, we've talked about depreciation, mortgage pay down, and appreciation. Those are 4 things that real estate has that stocks don't. Okay, now stocks can go up for sure. I mean, if you want to call that appreciation, they can go up, but I mean, they can also go down in value. Typically, real estate, if you buy it right, and if you're, well, let me just say it like this: real estate can go down, depending upon the area and things like that. We've seen that real estate values drop, but typically, if you're looking to invest, if you start seeing that trend, you can obviously get out. That's one of the nice things about real estate. It's a little bit more liquid. Just sell it and kind of be done with it if you see the market trending, but for the most part, real estate increases, or at least stays at the current value. So let's kind of go over return on investments, ROI. So just looking at, looking at some of the comments here, but I don't see any questions. So return on investment. Let's kind of explain that a little bit. This is kind of where math is going to come into it. ROI. You're going to hear that a lot if you're an investor. So return on investment is just simply a ratio of your net profit and the cost of your investment. Okay, now I'm going to get into that and explain that just a little bit. So this is an equation, and I know people cringe. I can see people through my camera just going, an equation? Oh my goodness, that involves mathematics. Oh my goodness. So no, I'm going to handle all this for you. But ROI, if you take your total income minus your total expenses and you divide it by your investment, whatever money you have in on the deal, that gives you your return on investment. Okay, so let's look at examples of the stocks and the real estate slide that I went over earlier. So stocks, you have an investment of 20,000, your down payment purchase, whatever that is going to be 20,000. Your yearly return on stocks, I'm not sure where your stocks are at. You might get better or lower, but just on average, let's say 5 to 10% on average, or even just say 10%, on that. So you can make money, but also, I don't know about you guys, I have money in stocks, and my stocks didn't necessarily go all the way up here over the last couple of years. So I've lost value in some of those. So it is possible to lose money on those stocks. But other than the annual return on stocks, you don't really have any other benefits. Now, I know some other people that are out there that may be a little bit more technology savvy or stock savvy. I understand there's dividends and some other things like that you can have on stocks, but I'm just trying to keep things simple. Okay. Typically with stocks, depending on the type that you have, they either go up, down, they keep increasing in value, or they decrease. But you can only buy as much stocks as you have money. Okay. Nobody's going to finance you, or nobody's going to let you buy more. Now, take rental property, real estate. So we have a purchase price of $100,000. We have a total investment of 20,000, which is what we're starting with. The total income, now again, we're going off the 1% rule, which is why I'm trying to follow the example that we started with. A $100,000 house, which should rent for $1,000 a month. So we're just going to say 1,000 times 12. That's a yearly rate, $12,000. Total expenses, we covered the mortgage payments of $700, including taxes, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And we take that times 12, which is $8,400. That's our total expenses. So our return on investment is simply the 12,000 minus 8,400 divided by 20,000. Now, if you do that, you come up with an 18% return on investment. So this deal will give you an 18% return on investment, as long as your property stays rented and you manage and keep your maintenance expenses. Now, there's going to be some other costs to rental property, which could reduce the 18%. But again, this is just examples. We're trying to go over just how you would calculate this. Okay, sorry, just looking at some of the other comments here for everybody. So sorry, guys, it's just I see it out of the corner of my eye. But again, this is just the cash return. This is your cash money that you're making. The cash flow, which is one benefit of 4, is how much you're making off this. So that has a pretty good return. So if you buy the property right, you purchase it, you fix up, and you get all your deferred maintenance, and you fix certain key items. And again, we're not going to go into how to renovate properties and things like that in this class. You know, what you should fix, what you should correct, how should you handle to reduce your maintenance costs over maybe the first 5 to 10 years. That'll actually be another conversation. This is basically about just return on investment, why real estate is good. So I'm trying to keep it there. But again, if any of those topics interest you, let me know. We can certainly hop on and do something else and come back and hopefully entertain you again for another hour. So moving on here, that's what return on investment is. Now, this is something that just kind of gives me the goosebumps. This is that dealing with an infinite return. If you guys have never heard this, it's going to blow your mind. Blow it. So what is an infinite return? Doesn't that sound cool? Infinite. Infinite means very far away, unbounding, limitless, infinite. Already enough of that. I'm just working my way up into this. So right now, what is an infinite return? Again, this topic sort of gets me pumped up here. It's an infinite return is, and this is my definition, it's just the ability for you to make money with rental property without having any investment of your own in on the deal, meaning you have no money in the deal. So follow that. So you own rental property, you get all these benefits, and you have none of your own money in on the deal. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Yeah. Sign me up. How do I do that? That'll work for me. So again, why do they call it an infinite return? Now, I'm going to briefly kind of go over this before I kind of move on, because some people are just like, I like to kind of help people understand the backside of why things are called infinite returns. So remember, the return on investment, if you look at this third bullet point here, this is the formula that I gave you earlier for return on investment. Total income minus total expenses divided by your investment. Now, the thing you have in here, what happens when your investment becomes very little or zero? Okay, then this becomes sort of what they call a divide by zero equation. Have you ever tried to use your calculator and divide something by zero? What did it give you? It gives you an error message. It says, hey, this is not possible. You cannot divide something by zero. It doesn't make sense. It's an error, or it throws up another message. So I wanted to show you what happens when your investment side. So even if you can't get to a point, and the examples I'm going to use a little bit later on here, even if you can't get to the point where it's zero, even if it's small, your return is going to shoot up almost to a much larger return, or even an infinite return. Okay, because keep in mind, you're making money off of, it's like you're printing money. You're making your own money. You're using your education to get and find and buy a rental property and get it all fixed up. And you can even use part of, I think Dan's money. I saw it pop up here, if that makes sense. The hard money guy even used part of his money to do these type of deals, and they'll loan them to you because that makes sense to them. So anyway, I know I'm kind of going on. Let's move on. So what happens when this thing gets smaller and smaller? Oh, that was my little, I forgot to take that out. This topic gets me pumped up. That was my little twist. So sorry about that. But hey, this is going to blow your mind a little bit here. This thing over to the right is actually a screenshot I took on my phone. If anybody doesn't have it, I've got just the HP calculator app on my phone here to do all the rental property analysis. It's pretty cool. That way I don't need to carry a calculator around. But if you take a look at the screen, I'm simply taking 1, dividing it by 0, and this is what I get. Divide by 0, division by 0, operation error. That's exactly what you get. Now, what I'm trying to explain to you over to the left-hand side is, what does infinity mean? Math says infinity represents something that is boundless or endless. Okay? So if you take a look at this little red line, this is sort of a graph that kind of shows you what happens And this is an X and a Y graph. I'm not going to get into all the Cartesian coordinates and stuff like that, even though I am a math major. Good for me. So this red line right here represents sort of a way your investments are going to skyrocket. The amount of money, your return on investment is what this red line really means. Notice the equation up in the top right where it says 1 over X. Notice that it looks very similar to your total income minus whatever over your investment, where X is your investment here. So if X is small or even going to 0, and these lines going up and down here, if I look at this line here going vertical, and this line right here represents 0 money in on the deal. Okay, the closer you get to 0, the more this line keeps skyrocketing, going up, up, and up, which means that it's going to go up boundless, endless, and limitless to infinity. And that's where you come up with your return of your infinite return by doing deals like this where you have very little to no money. So let's kind of go over this. Again, infinite, just to indicate what an infinite return is and bring that back up. But here's a question that I have. Imagine you're purchasing rental properties where you're able to do the following. You're going to buy properties and you're going to get all of your money you invested back. All the money you put in, you're going to get that back in a very short period of time. When I'm talking about short, a few months. So you might even be able to borrow some of this money and pay it back for just a few months, but you're going to get all of it back. That's the exciting part. Next, this property is going to positively cash flow. So it will make money, because when you evaluate this deal, again, we're not talking about deal valuations here, but when you evaluate it, you will do all of your numbers that will show that this property will make money. It will be a positive cash flowing asset. So recap, no money in on the deal, and you're making money off this property every single month. Sound good so far? Now, let me blow your mind again. Bam! You're actually going to get equity in the deal as well. You're going to get equity in the property from even 20 or more percent, depending on how good a deal you find. You can actually get more equity, but typically, if you follow the example that we used earlier, where we borrowed $20,000 for a $100,000 investment, keep in mind, we're borrowing 80% of the after repair value, or the sort of value of the property, which means that out of that, you have $20,000 worth of equity left in that property if you wanted to sell it. Okay, so guys, is anybody else getting goosebumps just with looking at this going, is this possible? Can somebody literally buy rental property, get all of your money back, have positive cash flow, and have equity in the property? Why hasn't anybody told me about this? This is crazy. This is nuts. How many rental properties would you buy? Okay, given these three conditions here, how many rental properties out there would you buy if you can get all of your money back, positive cash flow, and have equity in the deal? Come on, throw them in there. Anybody? How many rental properties would you buy? Nobody commenting yet? Nobody? I don't see anybody in the chat box. All right, I'll give it to you. As many as you can get your hands on. That's the example. That's the answer. All right, now we start getting some numbers. Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. But guys, now again, you would buy as many as you can get your hands on. Okay. And I'm just trying to be realistic here. These deals are out there. They are. So let's kind of go over them. And let's see. Jeff kind of hit it on the head. That was pretty good, Jeff, on that one, by the way. But so we're going to go over an infinite return example. Okay, let me kind of go over just the example of how a deal like this would work to show you realistically, because again, I hate people that give you stuff out here and then don't back it up with solid facts that you out there can see or look at and say, this seems reasonable. That seems, yeah, that's doable, especially people out there who have actually done real estate deals, wholesalers and rehabbers. I mean, you know what you get properties for. Now, I'm just letting you know, these deals are not like something that you get every single day. These aren't like plentiful deals. These are deals that you have to find, but they're out there. So let me walk through this with you. So we have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, needs work. Okay. ARV of this property is $100,000 after repair value. So once you buy it, fix it up, this is how much the appraiser is going to say it's worth. That's what that means. And you're going to be able to get this property for $60,000. So Right now, I don't know if you guys are in your particular area. I think $100,000 is very realistic in your area for properties. I was just listening to the, forgive me, I don't know the agent, talk about some of the sales of the property. And by the way, man, you guys have a crazy market. 1 month, 3/4 of a month or 1 month, man, very low inventory in your market. So, man, your deals must be flying off the shelf over here. So good for you guys. But you're going to be able to purchase this for $60,000. Now, again, I'm not saying everybody would do this, but it's possible. You can negotiate if you're good at what you do. Talk to people. Now, I'm going to talk about later how you get these deals for $60,000, what it's going to take to do that. But here, yes, I think it's realistic that you can buy a $100,000 property for $60,000 if you need to, if you're doing the deal. Now, I'm not saying you're wholesaling it. I'm saying here if you found a deal. Okay, so for 60, you're going to put about 15 grand in repairs. That's pretty natural, but you might even be able to go up to 20 if it needs that much more work. But bottom line, in this example, I'm just saying $15,000 worth of repairs. That's depending on the size of the house, kitchen, bathroom, fix up the other stuff, paint, carpet. I mean, you can get a lot done in 15 grand, as long as you've got your numbers down. Now, at this point, you've got a house worth $100,000 that you have paid $75,000 for. That's how much you purchase it, repairs, and of course, there's going to be a little bit more in there for holding costs, some other expenses, utilities. I'm just using rough numbers, guys. Work with me here. So refinancing at 75% loan to value. Most banks, will refinance 70 to 80%, depending upon where you're at. But again, this is a very realistic deal. Now you have a new loan on the property for $75,000. So now let's look at this. And you know what? I didn't update my slide here. So I'm sorry about that. So payment on this loan, I was using $700 earlier. Obviously, I did a bad job with updating it. I apologize. So $700 for a loan payment. Rent payments $1,000. Cash flows $1,000 minus 700, which would be 300. Your money invested would be zero because remember, you got all your money back. So you're having $300 a month positive cash flow with zero of your own money into it. When you run that equation through the return on investment equation that I gave you earlier, you get an infinity, or that's a divide by zero. That's what that DB0 means, divide by zero error. So this is how that type of deal would work. And these numbers are, again, realistic. Could you find something for less than 60,000? Yes. Again, if you're a wholesaler, you realize those are the deals that you're going to make a good wholesale fee on when you sell them to a rehabber. Now, if you can negotiate those deals, and that's a whole other skill that you have to learn, is sort of negotiation and getting that price down. But I think that's a realistic way of just saying that, yes, you can pick up this particular property, rent it, and have all of your money back, and have a new loan with 25% equity in the property, all for zero money out of your own pocket, and you should be sitting pretty good there. So I know what you guys are saying. You're saying, Ed, I am pumped. I'm pumped. You got me going here. My heart rate's fluttering. I'm my veins in my neck are popping out. I'm kind of getting excited here. How do I do this? How do I do this thing? Well, now we're going to move into the surprise topic, which of course isn't too much of a surprise for most people because Whitney already gave it to you. But I appreciate you sticking around to the end for it. So it is going to be the BRRRR method. So right now we're just going to go over this real quick. When you're using the BRRRR method here, this is the method that investors out there are using. And the hard money lender, I believe Dan, if I get this right, I hope I'm using that right, but Dan, he knows all about this, okay? Longhorn Investments, from what I've seen, I've used them here locally, another vendor, but in the St. Louis area, I've used Longhorn as well. You're gonna buy the property. Now, when you buy it, again, you could be using your own cash, your private lender, line of credit, hard money lender. There's many different ways of actually buying the property, okay? So you're gonna have to find some way of funding the initial upfront deal, okay? This is where if you haven't contacted a hard money lender, contact them. If you have a line of credit, if you have a house with equity, go get a home equity line of credit. That's what that LOC means. Just a line of credit. It could be a credit card or it could be whatever. Keep in mind, you're only borrowing this short term. You're only borrowing it for a few months. And then you're going to be able to, well, I'm giving it away. I'm not there yet, but you're going to buy it. Then you're going to rehab it, fix it up, repair, get a new kitchen, bathroom, paint it, get it cleaned up, put hardwood floors, whatever you want to do to it, fix this and make it look all pretty. Hopefully take care of all the maintenance issues in your property. So when you rent it, you don't have a lot of outstanding maintenance cost after it's done. And again, that's a whole other class about what to take care of. Make sure during the rehab that you take care of these items so that when you put a renter in there, they don't have problems and you can go 5 or 10 years without much maintenance. Now, once you rehab it, you're going to rent it. You're going to find a qualified tenant and fill out a lease, get it rented, and then now the property is going to start making money. Okay, so from the time that you buy, time that you renovate and rehab and get it rented, that might be 2 or 3 months, to kind of get that process going. Depending on how fast you are, you might be able to get it done faster, but that could be 2 months, depending upon your market area. But once you rent it, now you have a money-making asset that now you can go to a bank. Hopefully you went to a bank before you've done this process to make sure that they're already okay with this, but you're going to go to a bank and you're going to refinance, meaning you're going to tell them that you have a $100,000 asset, a real estate, where you only owe 75% of that in expenses, and you're going to ask for a refinance of that 75%. Now, if you have a good relationship with the bank, most bankers are going to say, sure, that sounds good, sounds fine. Now, there could be a few other things that they look at, but that's why on the refinance, I would definitely have to say have a relationship with the banker first. Let them know what you're doing, and that way it's not a surprise when you walk in and want to get a refinance loan. That's what makes this whole process so much easier. It's you have all these pieces in place. Now, finally, let's just say you move forward with the refinance and you get it done. You're going to simply repeat it, get your money back once you do the refinance, and you can pay off, put the cash back in your bank. You can pay the home equity line of credit back off. You can pay off the private lender. And again, you've only borrowed it for maybe 2 or 3 months with a certain amount of interest rate. So this is using the BRRRR method. Okay, this is how people are doing this right now in this particular market with rental properties. Now, they're using this, but they're still doing the same thing I told you in the last section regarding an infinite return. This is how they're structuring the deal. If you find a deal that you can buy where the purchase and fix-up cost are less than, let's just say, try to keep it at 75%. You don't want to go closer to 80, but 70, 75% total. If a deal like that runs across your desk and it's in an area that you're looking to keep stuff in, that is a BRRRR deal. That is a deal that you can definitely do this from and get, in a sense, think about it, a free house. No, I haven't said it. I talked about printing your own money, but you're basically using your skill, knowledge of how to get private money or how to get a hard money loan or rehabbing it, fixing it up. You're using all of your skills for this purpose, getting it rented. And then once you rent it, now you basically get the house for free because you get all your money back and you get potentially, in the example we use, $25,000 worth of equity. So in case the market does drop a little bit, okay, again, you're not necessarily worried about the equity portion. That's sort of a icing on the cake, but you're just making sure that the cash flow is there. You want to make sure that that property can be rented for the price that you're looking for or even higher, given that you've got a fixed 30-year mortgage now with a lower interest rate, okay? Yeah, there you go, free houses for everyone. Awesome. Awesome. And I was just looking at Dan dropped in here. Oh, I'm sorry. He's just communicating back with some other people on here. So I'll let that communication, just stay on the chat. But Dan's hopping in here. Thanks so much for holding in there, Dan. I appreciate that. But definitely, talk to him about, using these type of loans. I'm sure he's very familiar with it. All hard money lenders are, because this is a way that investors are building their rental portfolios like crazy. Now, here's where I need to be a little bit more realistic. This is the real side of Edward coming in and letting everybody know. It's all great. Yes, this is possible. Yes, it absolutely is possible. Yes, you can do this. However, can everybody do it given the certain skill set that you're at right now? I'd probably have to say no. And that doesn't mean that you can't. It just means that you're going to have to build up some skills that you may not have. Now, I don't mean to take everybody up on a high only to bam, bring you all back down again. But again, I have to keep it real. So right now, there are things with the BRRRR method that you need to have put in place in order to make everything work smoothly and not be so clunky. So let's talk about those. Number one, you're going to be able to know how to find these deals. How do you start marketing for these deals? How do you talk to people and how do you negotiate these deals down? Well, that's what your RIA group is for. That's what Whitney's whole group is for, showing how to do that, how to find the good deals, how to analyze them, how to do this stuff. This is what this group does. Forgive me, Whitney, if I'm speaking on a turn, but this is what the group is here for. I was talking earlier about who's got a deal and who's got this kind of a deal that they're putting up there. Great. Well, sometimes you can even find, and I have found more than what you would think in my area, at least, BRRRR deals from wholesalers. So if you contact other people, especially people looking to get into wholesaling in your area, talk to them. That's what they're there for. They're going to go out. Wholesalers' job is to go out and find a property, a discounted property that they can put under contract and then sell that contract to another person like you to buy it, use the BRRRR method, get it refinanced, and then it becomes a rental property in a few months. And then the wholesaler can walk away with a few $1,000s in their pocket and they're happy too. Now, sometimes it may not work out. Sometimes the wholesaler may not have a good enough deal. Sometimes you might have to renegotiate. I don't know, but you're going to have to find the deals. That's the biggest thing. Either doing it yourself, which if you do it yourself, you can find a better deal because you're going to have to negotiate yourself, but you kind of cut out the wholesale fee that you're paying. But it's up to you. What do you have more of? Do you have that skill? Do you want to build the skill of going out, looking, marketing for properties, talking to sellers, negotiating prices? Or do you just want to sit back and deal with wholesalers that do that for you and then bring the deals to you whenever they get them for you to evaluate? It's up to you. But either way, you're going to have to be able to find that. You're going to have the deals, find the deals that make sense. And that means understanding the ARV, what houses in those areas are going for. Again, this is what your RIA group can help you with, what the properties are going for. And you can even get a local agent. But again, what are they going for? What are the rehab costs going to be? And you can kind of do that if they take really good pictures and you look on the inside and they give you the square feet. A lot of times you can do your rough numbers and all your calculations just based upon that. To get a good, even plus or minus $1,000 or $2, get in that, close enough ballpark. But if it's close enough to make sense and get you excited on the BRRRR deal, then go take a look at it. If it doesn't, if it's like, no, this thing is going to be 90% loan to value by the time I get done with it, and I may not want to keep 10% in it. Again, I'm talking about deals where you get all of your money back. There are still deals out there where you might have 5% in on the deal, which could still give you a very high level rate of return. You might have a 30+% rate of return, even with a 5% down payment, in a sense, if you're keeping money in the property. But there are deals out there that you can do with just zero money out of pocket. Now, another skill that you have to have is once you do that, you have to understand what needs to be renovated in the property. Now, when I say here, how to develop an SOW, it's just called a scope of work. So you might see that out there on certain forms and things like that, but it just means scope of work. It means the total amount of work to be done on the job, from what to fix up, what to do, what to paint, what paint colors, all that stuff is going to be in there. And this is sort of a document that you hand or email to your contractor to say, here you go, Mr. Contractor, please go give me a bid on this property regarding this scope of work of all the things I want you to do. But even if you find the deal, nobody's really going to sit back and help you renovate it. So you're going to have to understand what the costs are, what the cost of putting a new kitchen in, what's the cost of putting flooring in, what's the cost of painting. So typically in most groups I've seen, there's like a repair analyzer or a repair spreadsheet that somebody has that goes around that has some rough numbers from painting costs to flooring costs that can help you estimate all of these costs. Some people even use a software package for real estate CRM packages. Whitney, I'm not sure if you have any that you recommend to people, but they're out there that can help you with this. So again, the skills, you're gonna have to find the deal. You're gonna have to understand what needs to be renovated and what those costs are gonna be, because once you do that, now you're gonna be able to determine if it's gonna be a good BRRRR deal. Now, the next thing is you need to know how to rent the property. Okay, I hate to say it, but if you're going to be a property owner, either you're going to have to know how to rent the property or you're going to have to know how to hire a property manager to rent the property. Now, keep in mind, if you are having a property manager, that property manager is going to charge you so much each month for having that property rented. And those numbers are going to have to be in your cash flow calculations if you want to hire somebody to do that. So if you want to do it yourself, you keep all of it. But if you want to hire somebody, please factor in those costs when you do that. But you're going to have to be able to get the property rented, because once it's rented, then the bank or the person that's refinancing is going to be able to use that money that you're generating toward your income of the property, which is going to make you look better when it comes to the refinance, especially if it's already rented. Now, the last thing is going to be is you need to get a bank willing to refinance your deals. Again, we kind of talked about that in just the last slide, but have that already lined up. Have somebody that you already know that you can come to saying, here's the deal I want to do. I want to buy properties that are $100,000 and I'm going to be all in for no more than $75,000. Go ahead and run my credit. I'm going to put in an application so you can verify me and do all the numbers. But is this something that you guys will fund? Will you fund these deals? Will you finance properties? And you can even tell them it could be in a certain neighborhood, zip code, however you're defining your properties, but you're telling him, will you invest in these properties over here if I find and get this type of deal where it's worth 100 and I only need $75,000 from you? And the banker should be able to say, yeah, that's absolutely a deal that we'll look at. That right there is already set up. Talk to them, have that ready so that when you get the property, you get it renovated, you get it rented. At that point, even when you're trying to get something rented, you're going and talking to your banker about, hey, here's my cost. I'm looking to get this loan. Let's get the ball rolling on this so I can get this stuff done as soon as we find a renter. So these are some skills that you're going to need. Now, some more things that I want to talk about is you will need to define a type of property you want. Okay. Here's one of the things I don't want you guys to do. Not every BRRRR deal is worth keeping as a rental. Okay, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. Please define the type of properties you want. And all I'm saying with this is that you don't want to get stuck with a property in a bad area that you hate going into, and it's always becoming a problem property just because when you bought it, you could do the BRRRR deal on it. If it's that kind of deal, then just wholesale it out to somebody, or potentially offer it to somebody else if that's what you're looking for. Find the type of properties you want, the areas, the type of bedrooms, bathrooms, what you're looking for. Find that particular example and then only look in those areas for that type of deal for your BRRRR deals. And I'm telling you this just from experience right up front. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Please, that's so true. Now, again, if it doesn't, don't do the BRRRR deal, even if it doesn't fit your model. And again, you'll need to understand rehab, repair costs. We kind of talked about that. Sometimes there's, again, spreadsheets that you can get from other people, like a repair spreadsheet that can help you out with analyzing all the costs on it. Just make sure you do a good job, because if you don't do a good job with analyzing your cost, the purchase price is pretty straightforward. You buy a property, here's what you're going to buy it from. The rehab costs are where you have all these fudge factor numbers that can mess things up and not make a good solid BRRRR deal that you're thinking of because you went over on your costs. So please be good about developing your costs. And again, I just want to be realistic. BRRRR deals may not very well come along every week. Okay, this might be something that comes along once a month, once every other month. Those deals, if you get a bunch of them, great. But if you know what you're looking for, that's where it becomes key. If you know when you see somebody email you a property from a wholesaler and hey, I've got this property, here's the purchase price, here's some of the pictures, and that price is in the same, and that purchase price is low enough for you to go, hey, that could be a good BRRRR deal depending on the repairs, then you need to look at that and hop on that. But once you've got your eyes open, once you're looking for that opportunity, you will see it when it presents itself. So guys, that was it. That's all I had. I want to thank you guys for just, again, being a great audience and listening to me for an hour. I appreciate it. I hope you guys got some good answers and feedback from there. And right now, I really just want to be able to open it up to some Q&A. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer it, or even, if we have time, any other miscellaneous topics.
We were talking about a question in the chat. We were wondering if you need a down payment to do these deals.
A down payment to do BRRRR deals?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No. Let me kind of explain. If you go back and, sorry about that, but let's just kind of go back to the example. You're buying the property using either cash, whatever. I mean, you're buying the property outright. That's kind of what you're doing. You're using hard money to fund a certain amount of the down payment, or even the down payment and the rehab costs. But all of the money that you have in there, wherever you borrowed from, all of that money is going to be paid back during the refinance, as long as the purchase price and the repairs all stay 70, 75%, no more, I would say 75% of the total after repair value. But this is where you also have to be good at your ARV numbers. If you say it's worth 100,000, it has to be worth 100,000. Can't be worth 90, because then all of your 75% are going out the window. You know, that's not going to be a zero money bird deal, if that makes sense. But no, you don't need a down payment on this one, because once you have it all funded, the bank's simply going to refinance your current cash position out of it. So there is no down payment. They're just simply issuing you a 75% loan to value against their asset that's worth 100,000 and getting all of your money back.
All right, to kind of switch topics, that was a great answer. Thank you so much. What about property management? If we're figuring our cost and our long-term holding cost is 15% for property management, a good number to figure, or
I think that's probably a
from
little
the
bit
property
high.
management side?
I would say 10% probably is a good solid number. 10% for a management fee every month for whatever it's rented. So if you have $1,000 a month property, you're going to pay $100 a month to a property manager to manage it.
Totally worth it.
Tell me how you feel, Whitney. Tell me.
I'm pretty shy.
Yeah, you're very introverted there. So
Totally worth it. And you get to write off those professional fees anyway. So let somebody else manage your properties. And he said that in Knoxville, we can find property managers from anywhere from 7 to 10%, but
okay.
it totally depends on how many properties you have. If you're bringing somebody, 200 doors, they're going to give you an awesome deal. If you're bringing 1 or 2, they may charge more because you're not bringing the volume to them, right? So it works itself out, and you got to have those 1 or 2 to get to those 200. So do it.
Well, and I would say if you're going to be that big, I'm just going to be upfront with you. You're not going to have a property manager do that, because once you start hitting, I would dare say even 25, 30 properties, even, in that range, maybe even up to 50. At that particular point, you're going to be able to generate the money that you're paying the property manager is going to be worth hiring an employee to manage it internally your way, and everything's going to be good to go. So you can bring that in-house at that point.
And they'll wrap your Christmas presents for you when you
Well,
bring
yeah,
them in-house.
but see, they can also do a lot of other things. A lot of your marketing, a lot of your they can do a lot of stuff. So once you start making that much money, you bring it more in-house. That's what I've seen as a property manager. That's what people do. Especially if you're going to stay in the rental property business, because you want to have a little bit more control and be able to, sometimes if you're managing yourself, you may not charge yourself 10%. You may charge yourself 5%.
Also, if you're managing it yourself, you could decide, hey, this house would be a good lease option. Let's get a non-refundable option fee instead of keeping it in the rental pool. But that's beside the point.
Well, now I'm talking about acquisitions. I'm not talking about exit strategies here. So I'm simply talking acquisition. So
we'll have to talk about that some other time then. Okay, last question I see that came in. Any tips on finding good contractors? And then Haley says she just needs a good contractor and ready to roll.
Finding the best contractors I've found are those that don't advertise. These are the people that you don't see them. They don't need to advertise. So what you're going to end up finding is probably some of the best places. Get referrals in some of your local RIA group clubs, and find out from people there who have you used. Because if they're a good contractor, you want to make sure you do right by the contractor. You want to make sure they're making money too. That's the whole point. So if you bring them more business, they're going to look out for you. They're going to take care of you when they need it. Sometimes if you have that project and you're referring some clients, you're like, hey, I know this is really a 20 grand cost, but can you do it for 17? Because I need to keep my costs down. They'll chop off some money on that deal because they know you've got other ones down the pike. So find out from your local RIA group clubs, even some Facebook groups that are local in your area. Ask around, ask for who they recommend for it, and give references. But these are the best way to build a quick list of contractors to call. That's a whole other thing. Contractor management, how do you talk to contractors and pick them out? That's a whole other topic in and of itself, but that's where I would start and find them. That
was another topic that Edward said that he could work for us. So if y'all have some other topics you want to hear back and have him join us again, let me know. Let me know what you want to know about, and we will be glad to know that. Be glad to have him back, and so we can all learn together. Last question, do we need any seed money to really get started rolling? And then Santa's waiting on us, so we got to roll, y'all.
Okay. Any seed money, I would say you're going to need some money. Yes, if you're going to do this. if you talk to Dan and a hard money lender, there's certain requirements that Dan's going to need you to have in order for him to loan you money. So there is going to be some fundamental stuff, but there's also private lenders that you don't need. I mean, you can have, Uncle Bob or Aunt Betty, who has a lot of money in their account, that's willing to help out their niece and nephew with a better than bank rate return if you can give it to them. So they're sitting there with cash in hand. Use some of the relatives, use some local people that you have to get private lending. That's another way to get started too. But yes, you will need some money up front to pay for utilities, to pay for this and pay for other expenses. But again, you're factoring all of that stuff in so that when you refinance, you can get all of it back.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I can't say thank you enough. I had so many aha moments. We were chatting it up in the chat. That was fantastic. And will you come with us to visit with Santa, and then other people have other questions after he has his turn?
Of course. Does Santa bring me a gift?
I hope so. Only if you can do it. And you made it to the nice list.
I made it off the naughty list. Yes.
All right, y'all. Actually, Edward, will you quit sharing for just to have a second?
I've done so.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for joining us.